In this video, we will talk about barriers to writing and motivational tools that could help us to overcome them. This video is based on the book written by Paul Sylvia published in 2007. The book's title is How to Write a Lot, A Practical Guide to Productive Academic Writing. And this book is published by the American Psychological Association. So we will talk about 4 main barriers to writing a lot, to being a productive writer. Motivational tools that could help us to write more. And there are 3 of those tools really: setting goals, setting priorities, and monitoring progress. We will also touch upon a writer's block. So overall, writing is hard. We get it. It's really tough. However, the barriers that people, talk about, the barriers that people encounter when they are writing, when they are trying to write more productively, they tend to be not real, species, right? So they seem legitimate at first, but if you start thinking and if you subject them to critical scrutiny, they crumble, and then you can easily see that those barriers don't exist. Yes, so one of the biggest lessons from this video is that the barriers that we think we have, on our way to becoming a writer, to writing more, they don't exist. Okay, so let's see what that means in more detail. So the most common barrier to writing a lot, which we also label barrier number 1, is I cannot find time to write. That also can be interpreted as I would write more if I could just find big blocks of time. Okay, this really is a comforting kind of barrier, because if you say that you don't have enough time to write, you can't find enough time to write, usually, you feel good, like you're busy, you're doing important things, and that's why you don't have enough time to write. That's why you can't find time to write. Other people understand you, they often support you, they will also say that they also cannot find time to write. Yeah, but if you think about it, this barrier is not real. The solution to kind of dismantle this barrier is to replace the word find. You really cannot find time, right? It's not hidden somewhere in your schedule. After all, if you think about your teaching schedules, right, or if you're a student, about your class schedule, you don't find any time for those classes. You just follow the schedule, right? So really replace the word find, because really you cannot find any time. You can only allocate time, right? You can allot time only. So the solution really, instead of trying to find time, is to make a schedule for writing and stick to it. Regularity matters more than the amount. Really, don't binge write. Binge writing is when you write a lot for a big chunks of time, but not regularly, right? You do that rarely, very rarely, maybe once a month, once in 2 months, but you don't do it regularly, and you do it a lot. This is a very unproductive way to write. So instead, make a schedule and write regularly, right? And for example, you could set up maybe 2 hours in the morning as your writing time. When you do that, you will have to ruthlessly defend your writing time, right? There will be a lot of people, sympathetic or not, who will try to schedule meetings, try to invite you over for a discussion or a committee meeting or something else during your writing time. So you have to say, what? I cannot go. I have a writing time. Really good writers will understand you and support you, because they know better than anyone that writing schedule is super important to being a productive writer, and only people who are not very good writers themselves can get upset or annoyed by your answer that you cannot participate in whatever they invite you to, right? So defend your schedule, say, I cannot, I have a writing time, right? And allocate time for writing. The second barrier to writing a lot is I need to do some more analysis first, which can also be translated as I need to read a few more articles, or maybe I need to do a couple more data, analysis, right? So at first, this barrier seems reasonable, right? You might even look like a very thorough, careful researcher, right? But if you are saying that all the time and you are not producing in sufficient writing, you're not publishing, you're not finishing your dissertation, then this barrier is not real. Okay? The only solution to fight this barrier is do whatever you need to do during your allocated writing time, right? If you need to do more analysis, do that during your scheduled writing time. If you need to read more papers, do that during your allocated writing time. Do all of those things during your writing time. So again, there is no other way but except for making a schedule and sticking to it. The third barrier to writing a lot is to write a lot, I need a new computer. You can replace this new computer by a laser printer, a nice chair, a better desk. Maybe in this pandemic times, I need a separate room, something like that, right? It seems desperate and also comforting because, kind of, it's not you, it's really the, the circumstances in your life, right? But if you think about it, it's not real. The only solution is to write with the resources you have. Remember that it's not your computer or printer or other equipment or a separate room that writes, it's you and your brain. So often, if you have a pencil, a paper, you and yourself and your scheduled writing time, you can write. You don't need a new computer to write, right? So really, again, the solution is make a schedule and stick to it. Finally, barrier to writing a lot number 4 is I am waiting until I feel like it, which can also be translated as I write best when I'm inspired to write, right? This barrier is comical and it's irrational. However, it's also not real, you know. The solution is to ask yourself, how has this strategy worked so far? Well, working when you are inspired, how much writing did you produce? Did you finish your dissertation or thesis by writing only when you are inspired to write? Do you feel good about your progress? The answer in 99% of the cases will be no. It didn't work so well, and I'm not happy about the progress. So maybe you should stop and change your strategy. Research shows that waiting for inspiration doesn't really work, and scheduled writers are more productive compared to writers who write only when they are inspired. Okay, and even great novelists and poets, people who write, the such things that touch our hearts, and they are, very very creative. Even those people don't wait for inspiration. They schedule writing time and they stick to their schedule. So make your schedule and stick to it. Write regularly, as every day if possible. Now let's talk about motivational tools that you can use in order to become a more productive writer. The first motivational tool is setting goals. Clear goals are motivating. That has been proven by centuries, millennia, and also research. Clear goals enable us to plan, carry out our actions, and also feel proud when goals are accomplished. You have to clarify your writing goals, and it's better to do that in writing. Yeah, and goal setting is itself, it's part of the process of writing. And people tend to have two types of goals: general writing goals and project specific goals, right? So general writing goals are about all the writing that you do, while project specific goals are specific to to every project that you do, a paper, a dissertation, some sort of a review or grant proposal, right? So do write your goals, and furthermore, in addition to general writing goals and project specific goals, set a concrete goal for each day of writing. Instead of write that paper or finish that dissertation, something like write at least 200 words is a reasonable, concrete, specific goal for a day of writing. Okay, so let's look at more examples of concrete daily writing goals. They come from the Sylvia 2007, page 32. So, for example, print the first draft I finished yesterday, read it and revise it. That's a doable, concrete, specific goal for one day of writing. Make a new list of project goals and write them on my whiteboard. Or write the first 3 paragraphs of the general discussion. Or add missing references and then reconcile the citations and references. Or reread chapters 22 and 24 from Zinsser 2001 to recharge my writing batteries. Okay? Or finish the setting goals section that I started yesterday. Or brainstorm and then make an outline for a new manuscript. Or reread the reviewer's comments of my paper and make a list of things to change. Or correct the page proofs and mail them back. Okay? The second motivational tool you can use is setting priorities. Once you have clarified your goals, once you have written them down, chances are that you have more than one writing projects, and among those many project goals, you will have to set priorities if you want to be productive. This is an example for a professor, of an ordered set of prioritized set of goals. So the first one is more important than the last one, right? I was thinking whether to include this into the video, and I thought, yes, if professors are watching my videos, then they might find it useful. If students are watching these videos, for sure. They, I think, need to realize how much work and how much writing work their professors do. So I'm including this here. So a top priority for a professor would be checking page proofs and copy edited materials. So if your paper is accepted or book chapter is accepted by a journal or an editor, and the only thing you have to do is check those page proofs, then you should do that and mail them off. Don't sit on them, right? The next important thing would be finishing projects that have specific deadlines. Then we would focus on revising manuscripts that are supposed to be resubmitted to journals, right? Next, we would review manuscripts we are writing and grant proposals. Among the less important goals would be developing a new manuscript and doing miscellaneous writing, right? Writing which doesn't have a specific purpose, or it doesn't fall into a specific category. So for a student, the list of goals, you see that even the list is shorter, right? So you kind of realize, right, how busy your professors are, and they do a lot of writing. So for a student, Sylvia recommends to focus on projects with deadlines, papers that you have to submit for courses, other things. Then curricular writing, right? The writing that doesn't have a specific deadline but is required by your curriculum. Like, for example, it would be a thesis, an undergraduate thesis, diploma work, or a dissertation, or a comprehensive exam at a PhD level. And next thing that, if you have time, you could focus on would be professional publications, journal submissions, conference submissions, and as the last thing, you would do some other miscellaneous writing. The third motivational tool is monitoring progress, right? As humans, we tend to view ourselves in a very flattering, self-enhancing light. We think we are better than we are. So given that, we tend to kind of overestimate the amount of writing we do. So it's useful to take a cold and accurate look at how much you write, and you can only do that by monitoring it, right? So it's not enough. The research has shown that it's not enough to just set a goal or goals and make them a priority or prioritize your goals. One really needs, in addition to those two things, to monitor progress towards those goals. Okay, and monitoring your progress has many motivational effects, such as just watching your progress keeps your goals salient. You just the process of monitoring itself kind of motivates you to pursue those goals, right? Then monitoring in itself as a writing, right? It helps you sit down and write because you know that you are a self-observing yourself, right? So that already forces you to sit down and write, and that is supported by some psychological research, quite rigorous one. In addition, monitoring helps you set better goals. As you monitor yourself, as you analyze how much you can do, maybe you can do more than you planned originally, then you learn to adjust your goals towards making them more ambitious. If you see that you are lagging behind those original goals, then probably your original goals were unrealistic, right? So you learn about yourself, you learn what kind of goals and how to set them for yourself in the future. So you have to choose a way of monitoring that works for you. If you are really quantitatively oriented person, like the author of this book, Paul Sylvia, who uses SPSS for monitoring, graphing, and visualizing the amount of writing that they do, then you could do that. If not, well, choose something that works for you. Okay. Finally, let's talk about the writer's block, right? The writer's block is it is really a big thing. People mention it all the time. But Paul Sylvia thinks and argues that writer's block doesn't exist among academic writers, and we are all academic writers, right? It is some sort of a dispositional fallacy. Remember, this book is published by a psychologist, so the author knows what they're talking about. And the idea of a dispositional fallacy is simply that a description of behavior cannot explain the described behavior. Essentially, when the writing block among academic writers is nothing more than simply a behavior of not writing. So if somebody says, I can't write because I have writer's block, that simply means I can't write because I'm not writing. And you already see that the writer's block is not real, right? It's just just something that we think exists, but it doesn't, like ghosts, you know. So the only solution against the writer's block is to write. Again, you have to make a schedule and stick to it. The real the real magic of writing is that scheduled writers, for some reason, don't get writer's block. Okay, so thank you for your attention. Make a schedule and stick to it. See you later.